In this video, we're going to continue our series of informative support videos by talking about writing for class assignments. And most specifically, in previous videos, we covered the first 3 steps in writing for class assignments. That includes reading the assignments, figuring out how to manage your time and organization. We talked about what counts as scholarship. And in this video, we're going to focus on writing an initial rough draft and using citations. So when you should start writing is really up to you. There are 2 times where you might want to do this. We recommend generally for class assignments, wait until you have an outline that's completely fleshed out, meaning you have as much detail in your outline as you plan to put in it. But there are some circumstances when you have very complex paper, like a thesis or a dissertation, where you may want to have a very complicated outline, and you're not going to move things from one section to the next in your outline. So you have 1 or more sections of your outline that are fully fleshed out, and you're just going to start writing then while you continue to develop other aspects of your outline. But for sort of bachelor's or master's level classes, we suggest waiting until you have an outline that's complete, because you may choose to move some sections around in your outline, and then that would necessitate making substantial changes to your rough draft. So one thing that students often are unclear about is they think they have to write their paper in order. And you really don't. You can wait until your draft is completed, particularly before writing your introduction and conclusion. And in the next slide, we'll give some suggestions for that. You can write the rest of the paper in order, and that probably makes the most sense for most students. Or you can start with writing the easiest sections first. So if you need to include something about your own personal or professional experience in your paper, you might want to write that first, just because that doesn't require as intense writing as, say, something that requires a lot of scholarship integration. You should make time and assume that you will need at least 2 drafts. This initial draft, and then a final draft after somebody else gives you some feedback, particularly a writing partner. So, you'll want to allow a little bit of time for that, but you should definitely think that you are not turning in the first draft that you write. Now, in this slide, we have some helpful hints in writing your first draft, and I'm going to go over these, but you should think that these suggestions are meant to be flexible. The first hint is that you should work directly from your outline. So you may want to put your outline printed out or have it on a second screen, but it should be readily available for you. And as you write your draft, you want to make sure all the information in your outline is included in your draft. And you want to keep the information that you present in the same order that it's presented in your outline, because remember, your outline was meant to have a logical flow to it. We also recommend that you use headings throughout your paper, and the headings you can take from the major Roman numerals in your outline or from some part of your assignment. But this is very helpful, because once you have a heading in your paper, everything under that particular heading should be relevant to the heading itself. We recommend, and we understand that you frequently need to write a draft of your paper over several days, but we're suggesting that you write entire sections or subsections of your draft in a single sitting. That's just to make sure that once you get into the writing part of it, you want to make sure that you keep that flow going and your thought process moving, and that is very helpful to you as you write. And we're going to tell you to create citations in the text of your paper as you write, so you don't forget to add them later. This includes any ideas that aren't your own, and from your note-taking and outlining process, you might have those citations right in front of you, and they could also be direct quotes, in which case in your rough draft, you should put them in quotation marks. So also pay attention to how many direct quotes you're allowed to have in your paper. And if you don't have the actual citations in front of you, you could even just make a note. In my paper, sometimes I put in quotation, in parentheses, put citation here. But if your outline goes as you did your research and your note taking, then you may have them right in front of you, and we suggest you put them in right there. Then, after the rest of your paper is drafted, then we suggest writing an introduction and conclusion. And your introduction should briefly cover what is in each section. And so the reason we suggest writing this last is because you may have some surprises or changes from what you initially had in your outline that you would want to cover in your introduction. And your conclusion, of course, is just a final paragraph or so, which states your major takeaways. So again, these suggestions are meant to be flexible. Some people want to write an introduction right away. We think it might need more editing, but if that's your process and that works well for you, you can go ahead and do that. But these are helpful hints that we use in our own writing, as well as what we have found to be successful for students. So this is what we suggest for the assignment for this class. You should complete a draft of your written paper and swap drafts with your writing partner, and read your partner's paper and provide constructive criticism to them. What ideas do you have for improving clarity or content? If something is not particularly clear or you feel like it could be given in more detail, make notes for your writing partner. Remember, the idea in swapping and giving feedback to your writing partner is to point out where they're strong, but also point out areas where improvement could be made. And then note if you see any spelling or punctuation, grammar, or capitalization errors, mark that up as well. But where students have the hardest time, in our experience, is providing the clear ideas. So focus more on that first part, at least at this point. And then give those drafts back to each other and read the comments made by your writing partner in your draft. Think about whether you can incorporate some or all of the feedback that was given to you, and then use that to write your final draft. And once your final draft is done, we still have a couple more steps before submission, but you have really the vast majority of your assignment done. So that should be helpful to you. And we hope you found this helpful.